Hi, everyone. Welcome. I am Meredith Vesh, midlife mentor, coach, and Pazniokas CEO. I created the Full Living After 50 podcast for women who want more soul, intuition, and pause in their life. Women who are ready to live full out, filled up, and fueled after 50. So let's get started. Today's topic is all about the effect of energy toxicity and on your metabolism, and what that is and how it affects us, especially at midlife, and what we can do about it. So joining me today is Stephanie Pazniokas, and she is a neuroscientist and biochemist turned health and wellness coach. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hi.
Let me just share a few things about you. You are passionate about helping busy women take back their control of their health, and with simple and lifestyle-based strategies. And I have another little bit about you. You help women who've tried all the things, right? And that they feel pretty hopeless about their situation. I know I've been there. Stephanie's scientifically proven neuroscience-based boss mode framework is the key to her client success, and I'm hoping you'll share a little bit more about that today. And Stephanie is the founder of SJP Health and Wellness, based in Boston, and serves women across the world through her virtual programs. So welcome, Stephanie.
Hello, Meredith.
What I'm really excited about this conversation is this is not your typical conversation about weight management, or it's certainly not a diet culture conversation. This is really about how your metabolism works and some real scientifically based components of your metabolism, and how it might be kind of working against you if you're not aware of these components. So before we get into the metabolism, tell me a little bit, because you're really unique in that you're a neuroscientist and a biochemist, and tell me how that how does that make you different as a health coach?
Well, I think that really because a lot of people know what to do, right? They understand about eating, a certain way, and, doctors will take your information and they'll pop them into a program. It'll spit out diet and lifestyle changes, and they'll give you a printout. You can Google anything. So it's not that we don't have the information or some of the knowledge. So yes, I do have the knowledge about our, cellular health and how everything is actually functioning in our body. And we're going to get into a little bit about that today. But my neuroscience background was specializing in neuroplasticity, which is the formation of neural networks in the brain. And that's really what underlies learning and memory and habit forming and all of those sorts of things. And I learned a lot when I was back in the wet lab, as we say, and before I went into the industry and worked in many different areas of science there. But one of the most important aspects of being able to implement any change is understanding how behavioral change happens, understanding what our limits are in the brain, right? So it's a very energy intense organ. It takes a lot of energy. And so everything our brain is doing is to minimize the amount of energy expenditure that it has. So it's going to put everything that it can put on autopilot, it's going to put on autopilot, right? But when you are trying to change a lot of things all at once, you're not in autopilot. You're in your prefrontal cortex, which is your executive functioning center. And it has a limited amount of heavy decision making it can do in any given day. It literally does. You can literally get decision fatigue, decision doubt. It's just like done, can't do it, right? So whenever we're trying to implement healthy changes in our life, and we're trying to do it all at once, and we're overwhelming, and especially when there's all other kinds of things going on, we cannot do it, right? And so that's why when somebody puts together their New Year's resolution, 3 weeks later, it's done, because you've exhausted your own resources and you haven't been able to create habits because you're changing too much at once. The brain couldn't keep up with it. Your body probably couldn't either, right? So physiologically, it takes a couple of weeks to adapt. It also does for our brain to start creating a new healthy habit. So my system, the boss mode framework for behavioral change, really has to do with identifying the right changes for you, right? That's that science, that knowledge, that thing we have, what you want to do and are ready and willing to do. But then how to break it down into small enough pieces so you're literally creating one tiny habit that you then build upon over time to the point where you're actually just creating this nice, big, huge new superhighway in your brain where that's the easier thing to do than the old thing, right? But you have to do it over time in order for that to really work. And that's why there's so much non-compliance with doctors and whatnot. They give you the stuff, but you have no idea how to tackle that. No, and that's probably one of the most common things someone comes to me with. My doctor said to do this. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I would say that for women like myself and probably people listening, this, we're high achievers, so we get really frustrated. We're like, we have the program, why can't we implement it? Or like, why do we keep sabotaging ourselves? We think it's willpower. We think we don't have the skills, or we get down on ourselves. And really, like you said, it's a process and it has to be treated in a step-by-step fashion. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about the women that you support and serve? Kind of what are their top issues that they come to you with, especially the women maybe in their 50s?
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually, it's quite the list, really, because in the end, all of those symptoms are related. But most frequently, it's that inching weight gain, right? I used to do this and now this doesn't work anymore. I'm gaining weight all of a sudden. My doctor just told me I have osteopenia, or osteoporosis, or I've got, problems. They have, more inflammation related issues. Maybe it's arthritis or joint pain, but it could also be gut issues because that's also inflammation related. And so they're starting to have gastrointestinal issues. It's usually a combination of things, right? And I think one of the most common things, because it's something that I talk about a lot, is just energy.
Yeah.
You just feel like you're running out of gas and you're less motivated to do things. And so you're a go-getter, you want to do things, but at the end of the day, you're tapped out.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm gaining weight, I'm tired. I'm just sitting here. I'm gonna scroll or I'm gonna just binge watch because that's all I got left. That's all I
Right.
got left.
Yeah.
And it's
Well,
a difficult time in a transition period in your life because a lot of times your kids are getting older and they're maybe leaving the house and you want to actually live a full life and you don't have the energy for it,
yeah.
right?
Right. Well, yes. And I was there just a couple of years ago at the height of that, where adrenal fatigue and all that set in. And I just was pooped and I couldn't understand, like I couldn't recognize myself, right? Like I'm a high energy go-getter person. And all of a sudden I was like, where is it? I haven't done anything different. Why am I not able to do what I used to do in a positive and effective way? So let's segue to the energy toxicity, because that really, when you said that term, obviously I'm thinking it from energy toxicity in my world, but you're saying the metabolism has this energy toxicity issue. So can you kind of introduce us to that?
Yeah, really, it is literally the energy that our body takes in. So when we're eating, we're drinking, whatever, we need to take in energy, right? Our mitochondria, the energy powerhouse of the cell, right? They keep us going. That's the gasoline in our fuel tanks. And then we have our nutrients, right? So we have, protein and vitamins and minerals and, essential things that keep us optimally running, right? Those are the building blocks of our body, right? So it's not like those are like the scaffolding of a skyscraper, right? You've got to have all of the pieces and parts, and it's not just fat and carbohydrates. You can't build your body out of fat and carbohydrates. Your body is actually so much more than that. Now it needs fat for many more things than just energy, right? So we know that there are essential fats that are part of our structure. Carbohydrates, though, are really that energy. And so when I'm talking about energy toxicity, that is a situation when you're eating a lot of high energy dense foods that are low nutrient dense foods. And it causes a couple of things to happen with your metabolism. And we're more susceptible to that as we get older because our hormones have gone down and other things go down. So our growth hormone decreases. And if your cortisol is going up while your growth hormone decreases, then you're even in bigger trouble. You're going to have more menopausal symptoms than otherwise, right? Because those are the things that are going to take over from your sex hormones when they decrease. And so you're much more susceptible to a decreased amount of protein. And in fact, you often need to eat even more protein than you did before. And that's a nutrient. So when we talk about nutrient density, we're talking about proteins, we're talking about vitamins, we're talking about minerals, we're talking about healthy fats. And in fact, a lot of women 50 and over now have grown up in the low fat culture. So they're already fat deficient in a lot of cases, and the good fat deficient, right? And so they're like, but I'm wearing a whole bunch of it, so I don't understand how that's the case.
Right.
But it's again,
imbalance.
it's the kind of fat and how we're taking it in. So that gets me into that energy toxicity. And it really has to do with our food combination, in the sense that a lot of us are probably eating more of the ultra processed energy dense foods than we should be, because they're convenient. Hey, we've been busy, we're go-getters. I've been there, thinking I'm eating well, but grabbing those convenience foods that if I actually look at the ingredients list now of what I used to eat when I was in this place myself, that I can't pronounce. It's lab grown food. I mean, it's not real food. Our bodies actually don't even know what to do with it. And it's coming at us in a combination that's supposed to be convenient. Look, it's got your carbohydrates, it's got your fats, it doesn't usually have much in the way of protein. But you don't ever find that kind of food combination in nature. And they've engineered it to be super hyper palatable, easy to chew, fast to digest, low fiber, so you don't stay full because they need to keep you eating. I mean, they have a return on investment. They have to, satisfy Wall Street. They have to have growth in the market. There aren't more people, so they need to get you to eat more per person.
Absolutely.
Right?
I heard some stat about women, and I assume this is older women, but 60% of women are not eating enough protein. Now it's probably higher. Probably given your experience, you might say that the number's higher, but it's like, I can't believe how much we've missed the boat on protein. Like, why is this not getting?
Yeah, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that there was a period of time where people are saying, oh, if you eat too much protein, your life expectancy goes down. And so there were these studies that showed, oh, people who are eating more meat have a lower lifespan. And really, it's that we're not eating meat the way we originally ate meat. We're eating a whole bunch of lean muscle meat, which is high in methionine, but we're not eating any of the stuff that is high in glycine, which is the connective tissue. That's why bone broth is such a really great thing. So in your body, glycine and methionine have to be in balance. If you have the glycine, it completely cancels out any effect of methionine on that longevity.
Wow.
Because they're meant to be in balance, like cortisol and growth hormone are meant to be in balance when you're in postmenopause, in order to ensure that you have your muscle, that you don't lose your muscle mass and you stop, get as puffy and extra around the middle, as well as some other things. So energy toxicity, and I'm glad you said the 60%, because it also turns out that the average American eats 60 to 70% of their daily calories as ultra processed food. That's over 5 servings a day. And that is by and large the most the biggest source of energy toxicity that we are experiencing, because we're eating a lot of calories. So this is, empty calories in a sense. That's a real thing. We're getting more than our body can handle. So everybody has a personal fat threshold. That is, how much fat can I have in my subcutaneous tissue? And some people can have all kinds of fat in their subcutaneous tissue before they start putting on visceral fat. And then others can't tolerate much. So that's a personal issue. But you'll know when you've hit it based on your waist circumference, waist height ratio, right? There's a ratio. And when you exceed a certain amount and you're starting to put that in the middle, then you've exceeded your personal fat threshold. And if you're not having enough protein and you're losing your muscle mass, then your basal metabolic rate is going down. You don't have as many mitochondria using all that energy. So you're still eating, but you're not using it. So so it compounds, right?
Can you? So I'm sorry to interrupt you. I remember talking to you about an energy burn hierarchy. Does this play a factor in like the foods we eat and why certain things go to fat and why certain calories don't?
Yes. Um, so the energy burn hierarchy is, and this is more to do with how can you lose weight? Like what's happening in your body
Mm,
that allows you to lose weight? And think about it in terms of refrigerators and freezers. Our glucose, our carbohydrate energy is stored as glycogen, but we can only store about up to 2,000, 2,100 calories, and some people as little as, 14 or 1,600 calories of glycogen. And that's our refrigerator. We get one of those in our house, right? One
yeah.
refrigerator. And once it's full, anything that we eat over there that we're now using there is going to get stored in our freezer.
Mm,
That's our fat stores, right?
okay.
Because we can store hundreds of thousands of calories worth of fat, but only 2,100 calories worth of glycogen, right? And so when we're eating all of the time, so not only is it what you eat that can create energy toxicity, it's that frequency of eating. It's eating more than what you're actually needing for your body. And your brain will tell you that you're hungry,
Right.
even if you've got enough energy, if you're eating it in such a way that you have the glucose spikes, right? And then you have the insulin overshoot, and then you end up in this reactive hypoglycemia, and your brain's like, I'm going to die, eat now.
Right.
The other thing that your brain does is say, I got all this energy, but I didn't get enough protein. I didn't get the fiber I needed. I didn't get the vitamins that I needed. I didn't get the minerals I needed. I need you to eat some more because I don't
Oh,
have.
yeah.
Protein is the primary driver of that. That is the most,
Mm,
that's the protein leverage hypothesis. There are other vitamin minerals that will impact satiety, but the primary one is protein.
yeah. Oh, I
And so
agree with that.
and your brain is going to be like, I didn't get enough, I didn't get enough, I didn't get enough, and you're going to keep eating until you do. So it's super important when we say eating nutrient dense to have enough protein, have enough foods that have high vitamins and minerals. And so if you love liver, great, go for it. If you hate liver, have lots and lots of veggies to go along with your protein. And when we get to the energy burn hierarchy, your burn energy in your body in the order in which you can store. So things that you can't store, you burn first,
Mm,
that you don't have as enough storage for. So the very last thing you're ever going to burn in your body is your body fat. So the first thing is alcohol. You drinking alcohol, that's what you're burning. You'll never be burning fat while you're drinking your
okay.
glass of wine. And okay, that's fine. Have one a day, whatever. But keep in mind that
Fair
if
enough.
you're doing that,
Yeah.
then you're not going to burn fat.
Yeah.
Um, and then there is protein but that's a special case because it actually uses energy to burn protein, and your body's not going to burn protein for energy unless it absolutely has to. Then you also have ketones. It's not something, and you don't typically make those unless you're already burning fat, right? Because you'll make them as you need them. So the next thing down from alcohol really ends up being functionally that glycogen or the glucose.
Mm,
And so you're going to start to burn through that. But think about it. People think, oh, I'm just going to exercise and I'm going to burn some calories. You're going to burn 300, 400 calories if you work out really, really hard. And if you overwork out, you're just going to increase your cortisol, right? So you have to
and
make
then
sure you're
stuff the
doing the right
storage
thing.
anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not going to get that much through your glycogen. And this is where it comes into how frequently we eat. That's why intermittent fasting, in the sense of time restricted eating, having a set eating window and not eating outside of it, allows you to go through those during your sleep and then get into fat burning. And
Yeah.
what better time to do it than when you're sleeping? You don't have to even worry about it, right?
Right.
But that's why that works, right? Because you have to get through that glycogen, then you burn what little fatty acids might be going through your body. That helps you actually reduce things like triglycerides and all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
And then you get into your body fat.
Well,
And
I want to underscore this
yeah,
because you just named like the last 3 years of my journey where I thought I was eating healthy, nutrient, dense like vegetables and etc. But I wasn't getting enough protein because I'm a vegetarian and I just can't bring myself to eat meat. So I was getting great nutrients. I wasn't eating my processed food, but I wasn't getting enough protein, and I was eating all the time, like great.
because your brain was like, ah,
I'm still hungry. I'm still hungry. And wow, what a surprise. I have major inflammation issues and really stubborn weight loss because I really feel like at the time my adrenals were out of control. So everything was going to storage. It was like in survival mode, like store everything, put it in the freezer for later.
exactly. Put it in the freezer.
Yeah.
And your inflammation is going up, your stress is going up, your sleep is probably getting worse. I imagine that during this time, your sleep was not the best it's ever been.
Well, that's an estrogen thing, I think, but yes, it's all
It's
related, right?
it's all related, right? It's not just the estrogen thing. So,
Yep,
and
I'm
so,
feeling it. I'm feeling what you're talking about here.
right. And so it goes on. So you want to get to that place where you can, burn your body fat. It's important. And it's important to eat the right food and to give your body enough nutrients so you're not constantly getting a signal to eat. And what happens is when you're under stress, if you have sleep issues, which commonly happen during menopause for many reasons, all of these things feed into an increase in cortisol, which directly causes chronic inflammation. Even if you're not eating inflammatory foods, a constantly active hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis is causing chronic stress, which actually increases oxidative stress in your body and causes chronic inflammation via that route. So you're going to get that. And that actually signals your brain to tell your body to seek comfort foods, carbohydrate containing foods to help you make serotonin to bring down the cortisol. And if you're not getting the sleep, then what happens also in your brain and the endocannabinoid system, different part of your brain saying, you need comfort food. I'm going to, increase your ghrelin, decrease your leptin. You're not going to be able to feel full, and you're going to go after comfort foods because the endocannabinoid system is the part of the brain that gives you the munchies, by the way. Right? So you're a double whammy, right? So it's all kind of feeding into each other, into this big pile of yuck. And that's where energy toxicity comes in.
Okay, so now that we went to the worst case scenario, which I feel like I've lived through the last 3 years, tell me about some strategies for, to help. What are the foods? What are the processes? What are the guidelines and strategies for eating so that you're not triggering this toxicity?
Yeah, so you'll hear a lot about out there people talking about keto or low carb or this or that. They're not all different things, but I don't like to think of it in those terms. I like to think of it in terms of, listen, how much of what I'm eating is energy and how much do I need, right? So whether that energy comes from carbs or fat, you don't generally want the both at the same time. To have a nutrient dense, energy realistic diet based on, so when I'm working with my clients, I figure out what their basal metabolic rate is. It's good to have that to know, okay, in general, how much should you be eating? We don't count calories. We just kind of do rough hand size portions, right? I'm not into huge amounts of tracking because it's stressful, which is counterproductive. But you're going to look at not more than a combination of 60% of your calories from fat and carbs. And you can do, 40-20, you can do, whatever you want to do in there, right? And healthy fats. I'm not, not talking about inflammatory high heat processed oils and things like that. I'm talking about real food fats from whole foods. So that's one thing. And when we get to nutrient density, the rest, that leaves protein, guys. So and veggies are sort of a free thing. Your phytonutrients and starchy, like fibrous veggies like kale and all of those great things, right? So it takes a while to actually get your protein up because it's so satiating that as you're eating more, you're like, oh my God, like I cannot eat more. But your body is actually going to get used to it. And it's going to be like, oh my gosh, I actually have enough protein to make the neurotransmitters I need for my mental health. I have enough protein to make growth hormone. I have enough protein to keep my muscles up. I have enough protein to, and it's like, oh, I can do more than, because the RDA amount of for protein is like the bare minimum to avoid diseases. Your bones are 50% protein. You need that scaffolding in addition to calcium, right? So we need the nutrients. And when it comes to increasing protein, you said that you don't eat meat. There are other sources, even non-soy sources of protein, like lupini beans are a great, there are no net carbs in them because there's so much fiber and so much protein. Lupini beans are wonderful. So that, because what happens is when you're continually eating, in order to get enough protein in a vegetarian or vegan diet, well, vegan if you're not eating any eggs or cheese or dairy or yogurt or kefir or any of those types of things, then what ends up happening is a lot of times it's packaged with a lot of carbohydrate, and you end up with just too much energy. And for the protein, because the ratio is just not there. So finding sources of protein that aren't also coming with a whole bunch of energy.
Right. So when you say energy toxicity, is it fair to say another term for that is like the empty calories that we've been?
I mean, that's an easy way, to talk about it. And I try to stay away from, because I don't want people obsessing about calories.
Right.
Because calorie is just a measure of energy, and calories just give you one look at it, because energy toxicity happens also in the absence of nutrients, right? It's not, so calories are talking about empty calories. That's what you are getting. It doesn't really talk about what you aren't getting, right? So I really like to think of it in this terms of saying, okay, well, how much energy do I really need? And am I getting enough nutrients in the food that I'm eating, in balance with the energy that I'm taking in? Because what ended up happening with you, for example, is that your brain was like, don't have enough nutrients, I'm not getting the thing that I need. You were getting all the vitamins and minerals in all likelihood.
Yay.
but you were missing a very key component, and that protein is what's going to keep your bones healthy. That's what's going to keep your growth hormone high enough so that you can maintain your muscle. That's going to help your brain. It's everything. Your body is made up of protein.
100%.
Your genes are transcribed. Yeah. And just your genes and everything that the ribosomes make in the mRNA, and the end product of those are proteins and enzymes and scaffolding, and then it'll pull in other things, right? Other vitamins and minerals to complement. But
right, so you can't build a skyscraper without protein.
No, because that's the skeleton of your building. Like that's, so you have to have it. And less fun is that as you get older, women over 60 or 65 actually don't even break it down as well. So they even need even more.
Yeah.
Because they're unable to use efficiently everything they're eating. Now, you can take, various digestive enzymes for that. You can actually increase the amount of bitters in your diet, arugula and bitter melon and all those types of things to help increase your digestion, to break everything down. Right. And so that is a good way to help your digestion and to boost your digestion. But the other thing that can really inhibit people from being able to absorb all of their nutrients is just medications.
Yeah.
And when you start piling on the medications, it actually starts to interfere. For example, a lot of people are on, things like Prilosec or proton pump inhibitors for GERD. Well, it turns out that there's a lot of research out there that says GERD is actually a problem with low acid. So inhibiting acid just means that you're not hurting yourself as much. But the problem is that acid actually stimulates that esophageal sphincter to close. So if you're already low acid and then you're inhibiting it, your stomach isn't going to make what's called intrinsic factor. And intrinsic factor is required to absorb vitamin B12. So now you've got a vitamin B12 deficiency.
Yeah.
Right. And that causes a whole bunch of problems. So
So before I get overwhelmed, because it does feel like I don't want to have to be a neuroscientist to figure this out. Obviously, people like you are here to help us out with letting us, take this big vision, seeing where we're at, and then taking really small steps to get there so that we're not constantly like, oh my God, am I getting enough of this? And am I getting enough of that? And because it can be
eat protein first, right? Eat protein, fill your plate with a whole bunch of vegetables, not the grains and the rices and the proteins and the sweet potatoes and the high energy dense foods. Keep those to a minimum, right? If you work out, have those carbohydrates with protein right after you work out. Absolutely, because that signals to your body to make muscle.
It's
want to do that.
Exactly.
But your anytime meal, think about it as what are my nutrients? I'm going to eat those first. And that includes a couple of, 1 or 2 thumbs, a tablespoon or so of healthy fats, whether it's extra virgin olive oil or avocado oil or even coconut oil on occasion, to get some of the necessary medium chain and saturated fats. And those are really good for your gut health too. So having that mix of really good fats, or you can get it in an egg, like there's,
Yes.
macadamia nuts or,
Oh, I love
nuts,
my mac nuts.
pepitas, sunflower seeds, those types of things. You're thinking about energy and nutrient density at the same time. And
Mm,
if you start focusing on that, you're going to find yourself more satiated over time.
mhm.
When you do that, guess what happens? You snack less. You're going less for those comfort foods because your brain isn't constantly signaling you to eat,
Yeah.
and you're not getting these huge spikes in glucose. So you're not having that need to then run to the donut or the French
Yes.
fry, whatever your thing is, right? You're either a salty or a sweeter person. You're going to pick one. We all have that
I'm kind of
preference.
a back and forth kind of person.
Or you got that, right?
Yeah.
So,
So,
but something like that, it's that craving starts to go away because you're satisfying that need in your
yeah.
body, and everything starts. So your inflammation starts to go down. Your overall energy starts to go up. You're actually able to work out if you need to. You're going to start to be able to see your ankles, whatever,
Yes.
that inflammation. Pain is going to start to decrease. Your sleep is going to start to get better. Your stress resilience is going to improve simply because you're giving your bodies the supplies and materials it needs to run on a daily basis without just filling a whole bunch of freezers. Because you can add more and more freezers to your house. You can't add more fridges, but you can add all the fat you want into your house. And your body's like, okay, I'm just going to store it for later. But if you never get yourself to that point where you can burn it and you're always just filling freezers,
Right.
that happens because we're eating all the time. Like the average is that we're eating 16 hours a day, some little thing. Well,
Yes.
it should be the other way around. 8 hours, you need to eat for 8 hours a day, and then just have, teas and water and
Yes.
the other times, and give your gut a break. Yes, give your gut a break.
Yeah.
Give your body a break. Let it use everything that it's taken in. Make sure you eat your food, including your energy in that period of time, and you're going to allow your body to do what it was intended to do, right?
Exactly. So on that
And
note,
have a
I
balance.
want to wrap up our conversation because this has been so helpful. And I know that you have 2 really cool gifts that you're offering our listeners. One is a download and one is a session with you. Can you give me a little detail on what you're offering?
Yeah, so I get it. We're all busy. And you just said, Stephanie, I have to eat all this real food. And you were just telling me all these ultra processed convenience foods are bad for me and they're energy toxic and nutrient poor. So what the heck am I supposed to do? Because I either hate cooking, don't have time to cook, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So the free download is a guide called Clean, and it's called Clean Magazine. I call it Clean and Convenient. So it's really talking about what's out there now, because some people out there have said I might be able to make money making whole foods. It costs more because they're leaving the fiber in and they're not using bad oils and things like that. But there are convenient foods out there, and there's also a page in there that talks about 7 ways to get to healthy food fast. All the different things that you can do. Right. So it also talks about what to avoid when you're going to the store. Like, what are ingredients that you should avoid that increase inflammation, and what are the replacements? If you like crackers, what's a cracker that you can eat? Like,
Yes.
I'm not looking to say you have to change everything you eat. I'm trying to help you find direct replacements for your go-to items now, because
Yes.
that's the
Perfect.
best first place to start. It's the easiest thing. It's something that you can do. And there are healthy swaps out there that help you become more nutrient dense and less energy dense in your normal daily life. And you just make these little behavioral changes, use little new habits a little bit at a time,
Yep.
right? So
And
that's the
tell
free
me about
download.
the consult, because this sounds really
Yeah. And the
valuable.
consult is for me to help you do that directly. So you can get the guide, but it might not have
That's the do-it-yourself
everything in
version.
it. That's the do-it-yourself version, but it might not have everything, right? So there's so much more in here than I can put in there. So it's a healthy swap Swift snack consult, and it's just a one-on-one with me where you're gonna answer a questionnaire ahead of time, and you're gonna tell me what your current snacking personality is, what are your go-to things, and we're gonna have a sit down and talk about, okay, how what are the direct swaps for you that are personalized for you, and also some things that you can do in your day to help you get that nutrient density and to help incorporate these things into your life and get you moving on that journey to energetic health.
Woo, I love that. So as we head out from this episode, I would just love to hear in 2 sentences or less, what is your vision for, like, what does full living after 50 mean to you?
Oh, it means that I can take my empty nest and take that freedom and have the energy to go hiking the Grand Canyon if I want to go have new adventures without having to, go to a concert and not have to worry about how I'm going to feel if I have to wait in traffic afterward or, like that's one of those things that I just didn't have the energy for. Having the energy to deal with crowds, right? To deal with, I want to go to see fireworks, having the energy to do that, right? Whatever it is that's coming up, but just not being withheld by, I just can't do that today. I just don't have the mental and physical energy to do those things because this is the time of our lives where we should be able to do that.
Yes.
And so if we reignite our energetic health and heal ourselves at the cellular level, get rid of that inflammation.
Cellular lover. I like that.
But if we can do that, we get that energy and we can do the things that we want. We can live full after 50. We don't have to be a washed out, husk sitting on our couch scrolling through Facebook.
Oh, 100%. Thank you so much, Stephanie. This has been amazing. And thank you for the resources. I'll have a link to them nearby. And I really invite you to take advantage of them. Don't lose time trying to figure this out yourself. Just go in and talk to Stephanie and other experts. So thank you. And if you enjoyed this conversation, I hope and invite you all to watch the other Full Living After 50 episodes, where I share more non-BS strategies for creating a soul yes life. We cover everything from body balancing to energy awareness and soul level clarity practices. So please share this with your favorite 50-ish friends and join us on Facebook community. We have a Full Living After 50 community there, and we'd love to hear your questions and have conversations. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Stephanie. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.